Hello beautiful people, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I want to do a complete Elementor course. In this course, I do want to break down the basics of Elementor, which includes installing the plugins, installing the theme, and going over some basic website design settings. And then I also want to go over the designing phase of Elementor, where I'm actually opening up the Elementor editor, explaining how it's used, the feature it has to offer, doing some global settings, creating a header and footer, and some other design stuff. If you guys are ready, be sure you have your tea ready, your coffee ready, because it's going to be a lengthy video, but it'll be worth it in the end. Without further ado, let's hop right into it. So I'm going to assume that you already have WordPress installed on your domain. And right now, if you've already been logged in, you should see your screen somewhat like this. For a new WordPress installation, it will welcome you to the WordPress with this notification right here. And as you see, we got some tabs over on the left side. And if you're logged in, of course, you will see your name right there. So the first thing I want to go over is first installing Elementor, because if we're going to be building a website, we need to have a page builder. So I'm going to go over here to plugins, add plugin. And I'm going to search for Elementor because this is the page builder we're going to be using to build out the page. And this is the one you're looking for right here, Elementor Website Builder. Go ahead and click install. And once it's installed, you want to click on activate. And now you see we have it right here. Now, you can get away with doing websites using Elementor for free, but I'm going to show you guys how to do it if you are considering getting the pro version. I do have a link down in my description box. If you're looking to get the pro version, you can use my link. It'll be down in the description. I'm going to show you guys how to do this. So the thing is, when it comes to Elementor Pro, you can't search for it how we just did the free version. So if I were to come back over here and put in Elementor space Pro, you would notice that it doesn't come up, only the free version is available here. So how do you get the Elementor Pro is by going inside of your Elementor dashboard. So again, if you've already paid for Elementor Pro, you should have a dashboard with Elementor. And what you want to do is come up to the top right corner and download the Elementor Pro zip file. And this is what we're going to use to upload to our WordPress site. So I'm going to go ahead and download this one. And once it's finished downloading, you will now see it in your files. So once you have it downloaded to your computer, just click on this button that says upload plugin. So we're still underneath the plugins and we're still under add new, but instead of searching for it, we're going to upload it by clicking here and just choose the file. I'm going to choose the file and I'm going to go ahead and install it. Once it's installed successfully, then you'll want to activate the plugin. And now you see we have Elementor and Elementor Pro. Now that we have the Elementor and Elementor Pro plugin installed and activated on our website, now it's time to add a theme. But before moving forward, I do want to let you guys know, if you guys need an in-depth WordPress tutorial where you understand a little bit more about how to navigate around WordPress and what these tabs over here necessarily mean, be sure to go check out my previous videos. I have a video that I will have linked where I kind of go in more depth of this panel or this dashboard that we see right here. For this purpose of this video, I only want to focus on Elementor. So now let's get back to the tutorial. So now that we have Elementor and Elementor Pro, it's now time to get the theme. And how to do that is go to Appearance and Themes. Now, before I install this theme, I do want to show you something. So right now, you see that we have the 2025 default WordPress theme. So by default, WordPress do have these right here, these three that you guys see right there. They automatically default and they're pretty boring. They're just stock default. And if you want to see it, all you have to do is click over here on the left hand corner and you can visit your site. So if I just visit this, you'll see that this is currently what our website looks like right now. Now, obviously, we don't have any pages, we don't have any pictures, we don't have any colors, so it's gonna just look like this. But even if we were to add a little bit more imagery, we wouldn't have too much control over how it actually looks. So this is why we're going to install the Hello Elementor theme. So I'm gonna go back to the dashboard. I'm gonna go to Appearance, Themes, And for this tutorial, I'm going to use the Hello Elementor theme. Now, I already had it installed, but now I'm going to go ahead and activate it so we can use this one while we're building. And as you see, this is the one I have now. If we just click on it to see the site, you see it kind of changes and it's still pretty boring and pretty ugly. So we're still needing to do a lot of work. So I'm going to go back to the dashboard. And now it's time to set up some basic WordPress and Elementor settings. The first piece of settings I do want to start with is going to be the WordPress settings. So first and foremost, we have this dashboard right here that kind of has a lot of different notifications and other little pieces of information that's not really needed, and it's honestly just in the way. So what I like to do is go up here to screen options, and I'm just going to uncheck all of these, and as you see, they all disappear, and there we go. Now, if there are certain ones that you want, let's just say you like the site health status, you actually like that piece, maybe you like the quick draft, and maybe you like the Elementor overview. You can keep these if you want, and you can even move them to certain columns, because this is a 2-column little section right here, and you can, you know, customize it exactly how you want. But for me, in the purposes of all my client sites, I just go ahead and take these off because they can be very, very dreadful and draining to see every time you log into your dashboard. So now we have a clean dashboard and it looks a little bit more calmer right here. So the second piece of settings that we're going to work with is going to be the users tab. So if you're on the fresh install of WordPress, you need to make sure that you do go to your profile and update a few things. So the first thing is to note that you can do some admin color schemes if you want. And as you see, it just changes the color of the overall dashboard. For me, I like to just keep it on default, or I might go for the modern one. I kind of like that one too. And then if you scroll down a little bit more, you can select your language. So if you are using a different language, if you're in another country, you can set another language right there. Scroll down some more and you have some important pieces right here. Now, upon creating your WordPress or connecting or installing your WordPress on your dashboard, you would have already done a username. So that's by default. But you can also put in your name right here. You can have a nickname. And this one right here is super important. This display name publicly as is super important. So let's just say you are planning to do some blogs and things like that. You might want your blogs to say your actual full name instead of your username. So that's why it's super important to put a first and a last name here, because you get options right here for your name to be displayed publicly as. So as you see, if I drop it down, all I see is Shell 500, which is my username, but I don't really want that. If I create blogs on my website, I would want it to say by Arthur Michelle Matthews or Mrs. Matthews or something like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and drop my name here. So you want to make sure you do that. Your email, if you want to change this, you can. Just make sure that you go ahead and confirm it in your email as soon as possible. Your website is already right here. So these two are default by when you install the WordPress. So I wouldn't necessarily change this. You don't necessarily need to change those at all. You can put a little bit more here. You can even do a profile picture. The thing about uploading a profile picture to WordPress is, though, you have to go to this website called Gravatar, make an account and set it up that way. If you decide to go through those additional steps because you really want your image, then you can go for it. For me, I just typically keep those blank, but you can do that. It's super easy. And then you want to set a new password. Now, I already went through this process, but if you are new, and let's just say during the installation process, maybe like for me, for my clients, I have a default password that I give for my clients. And I always tell them in their website pass off email to create a new password. So if this is you and you're in that same boat, or let's just say you maybe want to just change your password, you can always go here and set a new password. It will log you out though, so be ready for that. Set a new password. It will log you out. You have to relog back in and you're going to be good to go. And you want to just go ahead and update the profile. Okay, that piece is done. So now let's start in the settings. So let's go down here to settings. And the first piece of settings we need to do is going to be in the general tab. So in the top left corner, you will see that I have YouTube tutorials right here, which is the name of my website. This is what I chose my site title to be in the installation process, but if you want to change that, you can simply change that here. So if I were to basically add my name here, oh no, not there, right here, you will see that it actually updated right there. So if you need to do that and update your site title, you can do that there. So if you want to add a tagline, you can. And a tagline is definitely important if you are looking to be found on Google. This is going to be a really important step. So like for my website or my client's website, I always make sure I add this. This will show up on Google. So I can just put this one, we create stunning websites, and it's pretty much good to go. If you want to have, let's say, a site icon or a favicon for your website, that's where this piece will go here, and just make sure you follow the size dimensions here. Underneath that, you have the URLs. You should just keep this pretty much simple because it's already set during your installation process. The only thing I would make sure is that you do have the SSL already on your domain, and make sure that this does say HTTPS and not just HTTP. I'll have that broken down in another video, but pretty much right here, you just keep this stuff default. And again, you can change some other settings in terms of like your site language, so how people will view and be able to read on your website. And you can even do time zones and things like that. Then go ahead and save the changes. Now the next settings we're going to tackle is going to be the permalink. So I'm going to go to, I'm still in settings, and I'm going to go down to permalink. And as you see right now, it's on plain, but we need this to be on post name. And the reason for this is because if you just take a look at this example here for the permalink structure, this is just saying that your URL will look something like this. So let's just say this is your website. This is your website in the URL, and then it'll look something like this, which we don't want it to look like this. Instead, we want when someone is somewhere on your website, it actually says the page that they're on. We want it to say your domain / about, I have it on all caps, about -page, or let's just say contact. This is how you want your URL to look. So you want to make sure that you use post name instead of plain. It's just easier to read for people, and it just looks a lot more cleaner. Once you choose post name, go down and save the changes. Next, I'm also going to use the media settings. So I'm going to go still under the settings, go to the media, and right here on this page, if you are planning, which I'm pretty sure you are building a website, you're going to be adding a lot of media. And the thing is, by default, WordPress already have some size dimensions for you, and it's actually a good thing for those of you who maybe don't know the different sizes that you need for certain pictures. But if you are going to be designing, you would want full customability over putting and adding images on your web page. So what I suggest you do is just go through and just zero all of these out. Put a 0 here, and then uncheck these boxes here, and we're going to go ahead and save the changes. And again, this is just going to make sure that when you add any images on your website, you have full customability over the sizing of your images. Okay, now that we pretty much have our basic WordPress settings done, let's hop into deleting and cleaning up the WordPress dashboard itself in terms of our pages. So if I just go over here to pages, all pages, by default, WordPress automatically comes with a few pages as well as a few posts. So I'm going to be on the pages for now. I'm just going to click all of these, and I'm going to move these to the trash because we're going to be adding our own pages, and I just like to work on a clean slate. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete these permanently. There we go. Now I'm going to go under the post, and this is good to do even if you don't plan on doing any blogs or anything that requires posts. I still say do it because it's just going to make sure that your entire WordPress backend is just clean and it's no extra bluff. Now that I have the pages and the posts pretty much clear, now I'm going to go to the pages once more. And as you guys see, if I go back to visit the page, or the website. You see nothing's here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to add a page. All right, so right now I'm going to add a page, and the first page I want to add is the home page. I'm going to publish this page, and I'm going to click on this button here that says Edit with Elementor. This is going to make sure that we are able to design this home page out with the page builder Elementor that we installed earlier. So I'm going to make sure I hit this button, because without it I will not be able to edit with Elementor. And there we go. This is similar to the same thing that we see when we were on a dashboard and we clicked our site. It's similar to that. That's exactly what we see here. So we know we're on the right page. I'm going to go back to dashboard, and I'm going to actually add another page. Open it up in a new tab. This time I'm going to add a page called, let's just do the about. We're not going to create it in this video, but I did want to show you guys how to add multiple pages to take a look at it. Now you see we have 2 pages. Now if you just pay attention to when I hover over a home page and when I hover over about, we do get the same pieces of editing options, but with this one we have Edit with Elementor, and the other one we do not have Edit with Elementor. And that's simply because, like when I did the home page, I told you at the top you want to click Edit with Elementor so that it can actually open up this editor, and it'll tell the system that this page was created inside of here. If not, it will not say Edit with Elementor, and you will have to go in there manually and then click Edit with Elementor. So just a tip if you are wondering why you don't see Elementor as an option for some of your pages. Now that we actually have the home page created, let me go over here and show you guys one more other thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a container here just really quickly, and I'm just going to give it a background color of black. And don't worry, I'm going to go over more of the Elementor editing tools with you in just a second, but I wanted to show you some because there's one other setting that we need to do, but I have to show you guys this first. So as you guys see, I just put a black box on our home page, and I went on ahead and I published it. So you would think that if you were to now visit your site, that home page we just created would be right here, but it's not. And that's because we have one more setting we need to do. So let's go back to the dashboard, go back down to settings, and for this one we're going to click on reading. And now you see your home page displays right now is toggled to your latest post, hence the reason why we didn't see that black box we just created. So what we need to do is click on this one, a static page, and for a home page you want to click on home page and save the settings. Now if we were to go back and visit our site, now you see we actually see that black box, and we actually see that title that says homepage, which we also see in the editor mode. So that just lets you know that we're doing the right thing. And that was the last setting I wanted to show you guys. So if you are ever dealing with an issue where you created your homepage but you're wondering why it's not showing, that's because you need to go in your settings in the reading tab and make sure you change that. All right, so let's hop into the Elementor editor. Now, actually, before we go inside of the Elementor editor, now that we actually got our WordPress settings done, we need to go back to the dashboard and go to our Elementor settings. There's a few things we need to set up in here as well. So first, we're going to go to the Elementor. We're going to click on settings. So underneath the general tab, we're going to go ahead and disable the default font color and the default fonts because we want to be in control of what our colors actually look like. Now in a separate portion of this video coming up soon, I'm going to show you guys how to set your global colors so you actually wouldn't have to worry about this. But just by default, I just want to go ahead and turn those off. And I'm going to go ahead and save the changes. Then I'm going to go over to the features tab, and underneath here, these are going to be all the different types of features that Elementor and Elementor Pro have when we're inside of the Elementor builder. Now, some of these things you do not need to have running on your website because if you're not using it, it's just adding extra weight to your website, and it's also running as if it's being used. And to make sure your website is up to speed and up to par, you can go ahead and deactivate some of these things that you know you're not going to use in, that you aren't using, or stuff that's actually in beta. So as you see, for the things that are in beta that I know I'm not going to be using right now, I went on ahead and made these inactive. And for some of these things that I'm not sure if I'm going to use, I just kept them at default. And things that I know I'm going to use, like this container, which I highly recommend if you are going to be building Elementor, to make sure that this feature right here is turned on active. And you can just go through here and see what you know you're going to be using or not using, or you can just pause this video and you can take a look at what I have active and inactive, and we can go from there. All right, so that's pretty much it for the back end of the Elementor settings. So now let's actually hop into the editor and do some settings over on that end. So now that I'm back inside the Elementor editor, again, you can see that I am working on the home page because that's the page I opened up with Elementor. So first thing to note is that we have this space right here where I put this black box. So this is going to act as your canvas. So as you are building out your pages, everything you drag and drop, everything you edit will be showcased right here, and you can do all of your editing work right here, or this is where the view of it will be right here. On the left hand side, you see you have your widgets. Widgets are going to be the tools that you use to build out your pages. So for instance, you see here I have a black container, or I have a container that I chose the color of black, but I can also go back to pressing this plus button up here, and I can just simply drag in any other widgets that I want, and I can just keep dragging them into this box. Put that right there. And as you see, I now have stuff right here on my canvas that I can now edit. I'm going to go ahead and delete these. Right click, delete. And you have a top bar up here where we're going to get into some of these things as well. So right here, the Elementor logo, if you click on it, you have a few things here. The most part, you will be using the history. So as you're editing this page, you might come across some things that you were trying and you're just like, I don't want to keep deleting all this stuff. I just want to go back to where I first started, or something like that. You can just click on the history and then you can go back and go to certain points. So for me, I want to just add the heading that I had. So I'm going to go back to this point, and as you see, the heading reappeared. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And also, if you want to get back to your WordPress dashboard, all you have to do is click on the Elementor logo and click on Exit to WordPress. That's pretty much what you'll be using here. And if you also are a fan of using keyboard shortcuts, which is something that I have to get better at using, you can always just click on the keyboard shortcuts and they'll bring you up all the keyboard shortcuts that you can use inside of the Elementor editor to make your editing process smoother and a lot faster. Then we have this button right here, which is the site settings, which we will be right back to after I finish explaining a few more other things on this top bar. Then you have your structure. If I click on this, you'll see that it brings up this little navigation thing. So I'm just going to show you what this is and how it's used. So let's just say I want to duplicate this container. I now duplicated it. I'm going to duplicate it 3 times. And for this one right here in the middle, I'm going to add a button. There's my button. So if we come over here, you guys saw I just added 3 black boxes, or 3 black containers. And as you see in the structure panel, I have these 3 black containers. If we go to the second one and I open it, you'll see that I have a button inside of there. So this is just a way for you to stay organized with what you're creating and easily find things that you need, because once you actually start building out a website page, you will have a ton of stuff on the page. And if you want to easily be able to access stuff, you can just use this right here. It's called the structure. A lot of people know it as the navigator, whichever one you want to call it, but it's really cool. It's very useful. You can also, if you just drag it, you can drag it anywhere on the screen. So depending on what you're editing, you can always move it out of your way. And you can also, as you guys see, when I actually hover over close to the right, you see now it sticks and it moves my canvas right here in the middle. I'm going to go ahead and just pull it out because I prefer to move mine across the screen, and I want the biggest screen I can get when I'm actually editing. Ooh. This is a really useful thing, and you're gonna see me use it a lot. I'm gonna show you guys how I use it to really stay organized, but for right now I'm gonna go ahead and close it out. The next thing to note, when you're inside of Elementor, you do have this piece up here, which is going to be your page settings. So if I just drop down to this, you'll see that I can quickly add a new page. And also, if I had more pages on this website, I would actually see all of my other pages right here as well. This way you can just easily navigate through different pages. Right now it's letting me know I'm editing on the home page, so if I want to go on another page I could, or if I want to add a new page I could also do that. Also, on this page, you can have different or separate page settings. So every page, you can have different set of settings if you are trying to get really custom with your design. So if you just click on here, you will see on this left side, it brings up a different set of settings. So it has the general settings. So if you want to do some SEO work for your pages individually, you can add titles for your pages. This way, also when you're sharing it across social media platforms or through text messages, it'll have a nice keyword stuffed title instead of just saying homepage. So let's just say, like me, I'm a website designer. I might want my homepage to say something like BizDorks Web Design Studio. And then I might want to put a pipe and say home. And disregard this right here. This is just the page title, but we're going to fix that in literally just a second. But if you wanted to, get really custom with your page titles, you can do that per page. You can also add a bit of an excerpt. Like I said before, it's really good for Google purposes. If you're inside of the editor and let's just say you did something, you kind of messed up, but your page is already live or your website is already live, you can just quickly from the editor go ahead and put it in draft mode. And you can give it a feature image. Now this can be in a separate video on how to really optimize your website, but I did want to go over this quickly if you guys wanted to use that. Now you did notice that before, when I just had the title of this page called homepage, and now when I changed it to this, you see that it also updated here, which I technically don't want that to show on my actual live website. So how you remove this is going to the page settings, which is where we already are. And right here at the bottom, we want to go to Elementor full width. It's going to reload, and as you see, it's now gone. You can also, if I go back, let's just put it back on default. And it's going to appear back here, that page title. And you can also hide the title, and that'll do it too. Now, for the purpose of this video or this tutorial, I'm actually going to create my own header and footer. So right now, by default, Elementor or the Hello Elementor theme does by default use this as the header. So if you do not create your own header and footer, this is going to show on your website. Again, it's really ugly. We don't want that to show. So I'm going to go down to page layout and I'm going to choose Elementor Canvas. In this way, now I can design whatever it is I'm trying to design without that showing, which is perfect for trying to build out a web page. Now, if I go back to the page settings, you also have some more things. So let's just delete this container and let's delete this one. And as you see right here, it's a space for you to finish adding. If I close this out, you see that nothing shows. I'm scrolling. You can't see that I'm scrolling, but nothing actually shows. And I guess I can show you guys this better. Let's just duplicate this and let's make this one a different color. Let's make this one this color. Oops, that color. So if I were to close it out, you see I can now scroll, but there's nothing at the top or at the bottom. But if I open the editor back up, you will see that I see this white space again. So you only see this when you're inside the Elementor editor, because this is allowing you to add more containers and finish building out your page. So let's just say you wanted the page settings for this home page to have a specific background color. In the page settings, at first we were on this settings right here. You can also go in the style tab and you can change the background color for this entire page. And as you see, it did that. So now every container you add in here, let's just say Let me just show you by quickly doing that. And I'm going to add another container. And I just make that white. As you see, it kept the background white, even though I added this container in here to design this portion of my website. And even if I wanted to add a new container to finish building out the website, you also see it's still black. So you can really get creative in terms of what you're trying to do for specific pages just by clicking up here and going over and doing some settings inside of the page. I'm just going to default all of this back to where it was. I'm going to delete that container. I'm going to delete that container. And that's pretty much it for the page settings. Then you also have these different responsive modes. So if you know anything about website designing, you definitely need to make sure that every website that you create can actually be read and it actually looks good on multiple devices. So for the most part, we build on desktop mode, but when you're building, you do want to switch to other breakpoints like maybe laptop, tablet, and mobile. By default, they have desktop, tablet, and mobile, but you can always go into site settings, which I'll show you in just a bit, if you want to add another breakpoint. So that's all this is just to help you design on your different responsive modes. These little icons right here, you really won't be using. You can take some time to go through them yourself. It's nothing but a checklist feature, which is really useful depending on what you're doing. Some what's new stuff, search if you want to, but you can easily do that with the short keys. Like I showed you, you can find the short keys here. And if you want to preview what changes you have, you can just click this preview button and it'll take you directly to it. I'll show you more about that later. And then of course you have the publish button. So anything you're doing inside of web designing inside of Elementor, make sure you publish it to actually see what you just created. All right, so now that we went over the basics of the settings or the things that you actually see inside of the Elementor editor, now let's go over the site settings. So Elementor have their own specific site settings in terms of the colors, the fonts, the buttons, the images, the site identity, background, layout, and all this good stuff. So this is going to be focusing more so on the visual of your actual site. So how you do this is by going to the site settings. Once it opens, you will see the first tab that says design system. So earlier we disabled the default colors and global fonts because we wanted to actually upload our own. And this is the part of web design that's called setting up your global settings. So the first thing we're going to do is open up the global colors. Now, I've already put mine in here, but just to give you an insight on what was happening here, when you're doing a website, most times you're going to already have the colors that you need for the brand. So for me, I knew I had these colors in my color palette. So all I did was, by default, they're going to come with these four right here: your primary, your secondary, your text, and your accent. So if you already know how you want to use your colors within your brand, then you just need to go ahead and put them here. You can also change the name. So if you're not just too fond of primary, secondary, text, and accent because you don't really know what they mean, you can always just change it to like main color or something like that. You can do that. We're just gonna go back. But all you need to do is on each one, open up the color picker, and you want to either paste in your color code or you want to move around the color picker and choose your colors for your brand. This way, every time you're designing things, it'll make it so much easier when you're looking for specific colors within your color palette to use as use on the design for the website. Now, by default, they will only come with these that you can change. But if you want to add more colors, you can always do that. Since I already did mine, you already see these, but by default, you won't see 2 additional colors here. You would have to choose add new color. Then you can always title it. So I'm just going to say our black. I'm going to capitalize the B. And then I'm going to choose the color. I know I want something right up in there. And then I'm going to go ahead and save the changes. So if you want to actually see your global colors, you do switch this on and it's going to reload. I'm going to hit save changes. Let me refresh so it can pop up and I can show you. go to global colors, and there it is. So for me, I had this already cut off because I like to see my stuff in action. But if you need to, of course, see what you're doing, you can always just click this show global settings. By default, yours will already be on, and you can actually see your colors right here. So now let's go back. You also have this one called your global fonts. So if you just open that, again, just like you have with the colors, you have your primary, secondary, text, and accent. So let's just say, let me show you guys mine. Give me 1 second. So as you guys can see right here, I actually have a branding board for this demo brand or website that we're going to be creating today, right? As you guys see, the color palettes right here are the same colors that I added here. So that's how I came up with my color palette over here on Canva. You can do this on Adobe, Photoshop, whatever you're using, Figma. But here is my color palette. So I made sure I put my colors here. And if I go back to the global fonts, you see I can do that same thing here. And as you see, for the branding, I already have a primary and secondary font. So if I wanted to, I can go ahead and choose all of my fonts here. And as you see on the right hand side, it will give you a visual. So let's just say for this one, you wanted to use, I don't have it on here, but let's just say you wanted to use, let's say enter. Just simple font. You see it changed here. I'm going to change this to Rim. I'm going to put in 4, and as you see, it's right there. And you can do a lot of more customization to your text right here, and you can do that for all 4 of these fonts. And if you want to add some custom fonts, you can do that as well just by clicking here. And well, actually, no, don't go this route. You need to add custom fonts on the back end, which I can show you in just a second. But essentially, once you have your custom font uploaded, or the fonts you're going to be using, all the fonts that's already installed on Elementor are Google fonts. So if you just go to Google Fonts, I already have that open here. If you're just browsing through Google Fonts and you see a font that you like, just search it here and you'll be able to find it. And you can just do that for all 4 of these. And then just make sure you save the changes. So I'm not going to save these changes. I'm going to go back. And then you also have some other settings in here for the buttons. You can also do the site identity, which is a really good one. So if I click on this, you'll see that you have their site name and their site description right here. Again, for SEO purposes, you can do this to make sure that your website is fully optimized. But you can also install the site logo and the site favicon right here. Obviously, you know what the site logo is, but the favicon is the little icon that shows up in a browser. So if you have that, you can just put that in right there. Go back, and last but not least, you have some other stuff here too, like the background. I showed you guys earlier with the page settings how for a specific page you can change the background. You can also do that underneath the site settings if you want an overall color for the background of your website. So let's just say your entire website, no matter what new page is built, you want the background color to either be an image or a color. You can do that all right here. And you can even do the same thing with the mobile browsers as well. Go ahead and go back. You can just go ahead and play around with a few of these. If you guys want a more in-depth tutorial on the site settings with Elementor, where I go thoroughly through each one, comment that down below. But for the most part, I just want to go over the ones you guys would most likely be using. So let's go ahead and exit back to the editor. All right, so I showed you guys that this is the branding guide I want to follow for building out this 3-section homepage with you guys, so that you guys can understand Elementor to a good enough extent where you guys can get in and start building. So the first thing to note is that this is my primary font. So if you do have some custom fonts you want to use, you can go ahead and upload them, and I'll show you how to do that. Now, I'm not going to go in depth with adding custom fonts, because you have to really know your stuff when it comes to adding your custom fonts. But for the purpose of this video, I'm going to use this cute one that I like. It's not recommended. Don't do that. Do as I say, not as I do. But to really show you guys how I built this inside of Canva, but showing you how I built it inside of Elementor, I'm going to use the same exact stuff we see here. So how you upload fonts is you go back to your dashboard, go to Elementor, and you want to go on custom fonts. I already have the font on my computer, so I'm just going to click add new font. And I'm going to add a static font, and I'm going to go to my folders, find that font. And as you see, I already downloaded my font. So I can do a separate tutorial on fonts if you guys want to, but for my font, I knew it was a TTF file, so I made sure I put it in here. So whatever font you do use, be sure to check the file type, and that way you will know how to upload it, or per se which place to upload it. So now that I have it here, I'm just going to call it exactly what it is. And I'm going to go ahead and publish. And there we go. There is the font that I'm going to be using. So let's go back into the editor. And now let's talk all about building out this homepage. All right, so I gave you guys already a rough draft. I told you here is going to be the canvas that you will be seeing exactly what you're dragging and dropping and building out right over here. This is your canvas. This is where all the artwork and the magic happens. Then you got your widgets over here that you're going to be using to build out the page. And once you actually drop widgets in here, you will have some other customizations that you have here. First and foremost, I want to get rid of all this. So again, I'm going to make sure I go on the page settings, and I'm going to choose Elementor Canvas. That way I can only see what I'm dragging and dropping on the page. When building websites, understand that websites are nothing but sections on top of sections, or in this case, containers on top of container on top of container. So what do I mean? First, what I'm going to do is I can either click plus, click flexbox, and I can choose a structure from here. And if I choose this one, there is a container. Or I can just drag and drop the container right here. So if I go back here, you'll see layout is where the container and this widget called grids actually lay. And that's the same thing if you press plus here. The flexbox is the same thing as container, and there's the grid. So depending on what you're creating on a specific section of a web page will determine which one you need to use. For the most part, you're going to be using the containers. Now that I have the container here, you will see that the left side panel has changed up a bit. At first it looked like this, but now since we have the container here, or let's say a widget here, now you see we have some different options. The first tab says layout, the second one is the style, and the third one is your advanced. You will see me go through all of these throughout this design phase, and you will see how to use certain things. But in a nutshell, your layout is just going to determine the things of the actual widget. So for right now, I'm on the container widget. So underneath the layout, I can choose how I want this to look. It's already a flexbox container. Right now it's boxed. I'll just change it to full width. And I can actually edit how wide this container is now. I can also control the height of this container. I can also choose the item's direction. So what does that mean is, let's just say I want this container to take up the full amount of the screen. So I'm going to go to the minimum height. I'm going to choose VH, and I'm going to choose 100. And as you see now, this entire box is stretching across the entire screen, which is what you want for a hero banner, which is going to be the first section we're going to build on this web page anyways. And just so you can see what I mean, now I'm going to go to the style tab, and I'm going to choose a color. I'm just going to make it this black color. And as you see, it's now taking up the full screen. Now let's go and add some stuff on this container. So I have a box here, or a container here, and I can now add stuff inside of this container. So I can add a header. Let's say I want to add a text widget. And then let's say I wanted to add a button, because again, all of these are just widgets, and I want to put it here. So if I go back to this main container, now we have some settings out down here for the items. So these are going to be the items that's sitting inside of the container. So right now we see that all of the things that we put in here, this heading widget, this text editor widget, and this button are sitting on top of one another. And that's because it's going in the direction of vertical or column by default. If I wanted these things to sit next to each other, I can just go in the direction of row. So for the most part, you're going to be using column and row. So depending on the design, you can choose that right there. Let's just make this heading text. Let's go to the style tab and make it white. Let's go to the text editor and let's go to the style tab and make it white. And the button is okay. Let's go back to the container. And now we can justify the content. So right now you see that everything that I dropped into this container is sticking to the top of the container, but we don't want that. I actually want it in the center, and I also want everything aligned to the center as well, because right now everything is left aligned. So I'm going to go to justify content, because again, all of these things are sitting inside of this container. I'm going to justify the content to the center, and as you see, now we have space at the top and space at the bottom. But now I want to also align these to the middle. So I'm going to align the items to the center, and there we go. So this is the beauty of using containers when you are doing web design with Elementor. Every piece of section you're going to add, you're going to definitely be using a container, and you just want to make sure that you can justify all of the content inside of there exactly how you want. And with these new features of the direction and the justifying the content, you can get really flexible. So like I said before, if you wanted to put this in a row, you can still do that, but just making it all centered. I'm going to put it back here, and now you see we have it in the center. So going back to the individual widgets. So we just did some settings for the container. Now let's go to the widgets that sit inside of the container. And you see we have the same 3 tabs. We have the content, we have the style, and we have advanced. So inside of the content of this header, you see you can change the title, and you can make the title link if you want it to be clickable where people can go to a link. So I can just put in a title here. Let's say, let's create something dope. I'm gonna put that, and I want to make this text a little bit bigger. So I'm gonna go to the style tab, and I'm gonna choose the typography. And I'm going to go to the RAM, and I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. Let's say 4 RAM. And you can do all types of other stuff. So you can mess with the weight. So the lower the number, the thinner the font, but the higher the number, the more bolder or thicker the font. So you can choose between whatever you want. I'm going to go with semi-bold. You can also transform it. So if you want everything or every letter to be uppercase, you can do that. You can do lowercase, capitalize, however you want. You can also do decoration. So if you want to underline the text, overline it, or line through it. I don't know why you'll want to use that, but they're there just in case you need to. You can also adjust the line height if you need to, depending on if this text dropped to a second line. So let me just go back to the content, because that's where I can add more text. And let's just say I wanted to copy this and add more. As you see, it dropped to the second line. So I'm going to go back to the style. I'm going to go to the typography, and underneath the line height, as you see now that I move it, the text, the line height is going to be the space in between the lines of the text. So you can adjust that however you please, depending on the copy that you have and the copy that you're working with. You can also adjust the letter spacing. So depending on the font, if you want to add some more space, you can do that. And you can do the same with the words. So you can get really flexible with that if you choose. I'm just going to zero all of this back out. And let's just use that trick I told you guys. So for the history, I want to go all the way back down to here. Now I'm going to click on the canvas, and it will take me back to the editor mode. So that was a good use case for showing you guys how the history button works. So now let's go to the text, because we have similar things. So again, in the content, we can change. So let's just say I wanted to, let's copy that. I'm going to paste it to make some more if I wanted to. So if you want to add more text, you can do that. If I just scroll down, I have some other options here, which you're more than likely not going to use. I never use these, so I'm not going to even talk about those, to be honest. I'm going to go back up, And then you also have the style tab for this as well. So let's just say you wanted to change the color of this to, let's just say, one of your accent colors. So I want to use this yellow. I can now use that. If you had any text inside of this text editor, which you can do pretty easily by just highlighting some text and click insert link, and then you can put a link here. So let's just put bizdorks.com. And now you see this has a specific color. You can go here and you can adjust it how you please. Also give it a hover color so it can be like that. And you can also do some other stuff with this if you want to add a text shadow on there if you want to do that. Then if I go to the button, I also have the same thing. I have content, style, and advanced, so I can change the text to my button to say book here. I can give it a link if I want to, so you can always put a link here. And if you had more pages, I don't have any more pages to show you, but all you would just do is go and get the link for the page that you want to link to this button and just paste it in here. You can also give these buttons an icon. So if you have your own SVG icon, you can do it here, or you can just go check out the icon, Elementor's icon library, which they have a ton of fonts you can go through. And you can also just search. So if you just do arrow, they have a bunch of different ones for arrow. Let's just say you want to go with the basic right arrow. And as you see, it's now on the button. So then you have the icon position. Right now it's on the start, but you can also put it on the end where it's actually at the back side of the button. And you also can control the spacing of the space between the word and the icon. You can also go to the style tab and you can adjust a few things here. So first and foremost, you have the position, so you can move it to any position. Right now, these positions will not work because if you remember at the beginning, we set the main container to be aligned to the center and justify the content to the center. Once these two are set, it's going to be difficult to try to choose these positionings for your different widgets. And that's the reason why right now, when we click on these, it doesn't do anything. If we were to go, let's say, go back to the layout, and let's say we unlink both of those and we go to the button, now you see it can move anywhere because we didn't justify anything for the overall content. You can even stretch the button out to make it full. I'm going to go back to my container. I'm going to justify everything how I want it. Go back to the button. You can change the typography of the button. So I showed you how to do this earlier up here with these. It's the same thing. You can make this a bit bolder if you want that text to be bolder. And then you have the color for the actual button. So you can change the colors. You can choose your global colors by clicking on here and changing it to whatever color you want. You can click on the hover. That way, for when it's getting hovered, it actually changes color. And you can even add a hover animation. So when it's hovered, it changes color as well as the animation is activated. Then you also have border type, the border radius, and the padding. If you want to say, if I close this out, if you want to add a white border around that button, you can do so by just adding border type of solid. Let's just say 4 so you can really see it. And you see it now has a white border around it. I didn't actually choose color, so by default it went to white. But let's just say I wanted it to be our green. As you see, it's now green. You can also choose the radius. This is just going to say how rounded you want the button. You can even do 10 to where it's still a bit square, but have a little roundness to it as well. And then you can adjust the padding. I wouldn't suggest do this unless you actually know your numbers, because once you unlink it or when you start adjusting it, it'll look like this. And now at this point, you will have to kind of go in and figure out what you want your button space to be. And that's pretty much how all of these widgets will work in terms of adding a container and actually dropping stuff in the container and doing some edits with it. Now, I didn't necessarily go over the advanced, but we're going to get right into that with this next piece. So first, let's just delete this. Let's delete this and let's delete this. So I already have the settings for it, and I'm actually going to keep it on center and center. And I'm going to now drop a container in here. Now, earlier I told you guys about the width. So this container, this outer container, is now holding a child container. So this is what you call parent and child alignment. So the parent container is the main container that's going to be holding some content inside of it. So let's just say I wanted to have 3 pricing cards right here. I would click on this one, the container that's inside, right click, and I'll duplicate it. Then I'll duplicate it again. But when you are on websites, especially on desktop version, you know that the pricing cards normally sit in a row right next to each other. How do we do that? I want you to drop it down in the comments below. I'll give you a second. Okay, so how you do it, you guessed right, you go back to the container and you want to change the direction to row. And now you see they are sitting right next to each other. If it's a bit hard for you to see, let's just do this. Let's go on this first container. Let's give it a background color of white or a light white like here. And how I can get the same color on all 3 of these is just right click. I'm going to copy, right click the second one, and I'm going to click paste style. And I'm going to do the same for the third one. So that's an easy little trick. So if you're doing little things that you're going to be using for multiple pieces of the design, you can always just right click, copy, and paste it to different containers. So again, like I said, I wanted this to be like a pricing card. So I wanted to have 3 cards here. And then inside of each card, I want my copy or my content. So now you can start adding your content inside of these. Let me make sure I can put that there. And let's do a button inside of here. And as you see, I can now, let's say I wanted to delete these. Let me duplicate that again. And let me duplicate that again. And as you see, now I have my 3 cards. Obviously, it's not a realistic, pricing card, but you guys get the picture. So that's exactly how you can use the containers and really get pretty creative with what you're doing. So now that you pretty much understand how these widgets work together and how the containers actually work in order for you to get the design that you have in your head, let's get into actually building out this beautiful 3-section homepage right here. Let's go ahead and hop right into it. So now you understand the inside of Elementor a little bit more. If not, comment down below where I may have missed you at so that I can do another tutorial to help you out better. And guys, if you do want a one-on-one session, I do have those available. It'll be the first link in my description box. So now that you pretty much know about that, let's go ahead and start building out our realistic hero banner. So as you guys can see from my design, what I have is, well, you can't really see it. Let me zoom in. So what I have is a background that has a pattern on it. And then if you look, I have a 2-column section or a 2-column container. So I just showed you how the containers and stuff work. So you can see that I have my main full container that's holding all of this. And then you'll see I have a section on the left side, and then I have a section on the right side. So the first thing I need to do is I'm going to click on the Flexbox container from here, and I'm actually going to choose this structure right here because again, I'm going to have my text on the left and my image on the right. Next thing I want to do is go to the main container, and I want to do the same thing I did in the previous section, and I want to do a viewport height of 100 because again, this is going to be my banner section and I want it to take up the whole screen. Now I'm going to have some stuff in this container and I'm going to have some stuff in this container. So the overall container is what's going to hold my background image. I already have my images uploaded on Elementor, so I'm just going to go to the style tab and see I'm still on the container. As you see, I'm going to go to the style tab, and for the background type, I'm going to choose classic, but I'm going to choose an image. Now right here, if you wanted to just use a simple color, you can just choose that right here like we did earlier. If you want to do a gradient, you can do that as well. All you have to do is set your two colors and position it how you want. I talked a little about this in another video. You can go watch that. If you have a video, you can upload the video. I'll do another video on this as well. And then you can also do a slideshow. But to keep things simple, I'm just going to do the classic and I'm going to choose the image. And this right here is the image I'm going to be using for my background. Now, on the previous video, I showed you guys these settings right here. So I'm just going to go through this pretty quickly. I'm going to keep my image resolution on full because I want it to be crispy. For my position, I'm going to go for center. I'm not going to worry about the attachment. For repeat, I'm going to do no repeat. And for display size, I'm going to do cover. That way, the full picture is in the screen. And then that's pretty much it for this background. Now what I want to do is drop my heading, my text, and my button because as you see, this side has all of my content. So I'm going to open up the editor again, and this time for this column right here, I'm going to add in a heading. I'm going to add in a text editor, and I'm going to add in a button. Nope, not right there. Okay, so as you guys see, it's kind of hard to move this, and sometimes it can be like that. So all you have to do is open up the navigator and just pull it. And this is why I said this navigator piece is very useful to use, because if you're having trouble moving things around, that's where this comes into play. And now that I also have this open, there's a few other things I want to do. So right off the bat, let's just say I had a full page, and right now all I see is container. I don't know what is what until I click on it, and then I see the actual outline of it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start naming these, and that's how you can really stay organized inside of Elementor. So for this first container, this is where the overall container is holding for my hero banner. So I'm just going to title it hero. Oops, did I put too many spaces? Hero banner. And that's going to be my hero banner. Inside of my hero banner, I have two columns, the one on the left and the one on the right. For the one on the left, I'm just going to say hero text. And as you see, hero text is holding the heading, text, and the button. So for this right one, I'm going to choose image because I'll have the image over on the right. So the first thing I want to do is go to the hero text container. And I'm actually going to put the word container. That way you guys can understand this a bit better as well. So hero text container. And let's actually make this image container. And let's make the hero banner say container as well, because I really want you guys to understand how these containers all build out the page. So we got our hero banner container is holding the hero text container, which is that left one, in the image container. So let's just work with this hero container for now. So as you see, again, all of my stuff is pretty much at the top. I don't really want that because in our design, it's pretty much middle or centered aligned. So I'm going to go back here, and for this container, I'm going to choose center. Or I could just, let's take that off. I could just go to the main container, go to layout, and I can also choose align items to the center. That way, as you see, everything is now pretty much in the center in this little piece right here. I'm going to go ahead and close that. So now I see for my text, I need to put in my copy. So let's see, what was our copy? Feel good, not guilty after every bite. There we go. And what I'm going to do now is go to the style tab, and I'm not going to choose any alignment because I actually like that it's left aligned. And what I'm going to do is change my typography. If I would have uploaded my stuff in my globals, you see I could have chosen it here, but since I did not do that, I'll click on the pencil, and I'm actually going to search for that font that I crispy uploaded it earlier. There it is. There go the font I want to use. I'm going to change this to RAM. I'll do another video on why I choose RAM. Let's do 4.5 actually. Let me close this out. Do I like 4.5 or do I want it to be 5? Maybe let's go up to 5. Yeah, let's do 5. And if I wanted to do some more stuff here, I would, but I'm pretty much good with that right there. I'm going to keep this font color because this is actually the primary font color that I used in the original design right there. Well, actually I used black. I should have used the primary color. So we're going to use it here. And let me go back to the typography because actually, do I want it to be that bold? Maybe semi-bold. Yeah, semi-bold. That's what I want. Pretty good. And that's pretty much it for this heading widget. So now I'm going to go to the text widget and I'm going to add my subheading. All right, so now that I have my text in there, I can now again go to the style tab and I can style this up a bit more if I wanted to. So in this, my primary font was that, but my secondary font was Enter. So I'm going to go back here for the typography. So again, I'm on a text typography. I'm going to search for Enter. Got Enter right there. I'm gonna go to the RAM and it's by default already on 1. I actually want to bring it in a little bit more, so I'm actually gonna go back here. Let's do 5.5. Let's do 6. Yeah, I need this pretty big. And then for here, I'm going to keep the size of the font at 1. That's perfectly fine. And the text can be this black right here. This is the one that I want. And I'm going to go to the advanced tab this time. And what I want to do is give it a default, well, not a default, but a custom width. So right here where it says width, so I'm only on this widget. I'm going to give this particular widget a custom width of 65. No, let's do 85. Yeah, that's what I want right there. Or we can actually do 80. Yeah, that's a little bit more balanced. And that's pretty much what I want. And then I have my button right here. So if I go back to the thing, I have rounded buttons, and then I have my primary color here, and then my secondary color for the secondary button, or what we call in web design the ghost button. So I'm going to go here, and what I'm going to do is actually, because I want 2 buttons. Now in my previous video, I actually talked about this, and I'll leave it linked somewhere above. When you're inside of a container, if you want specific things to sit next to each other, you have to add another container. So since I want 2 buttons, if I just duplicate this, you see it's gonna sit right here next to it, or not next to it, but underneath it. That's not what I want. So I'm gonna add a container in here. Once I add the container, I'll then add this button. Then I'll just duplicate that. Let me delete that one. Don't worry about this. It's sitting on top of each other because, again, when you're dealing with containers, you need to choose the direction. So they're sitting on top of each other because by default, they go into column. I want them into row, and there it is. Now, I want you to pay attention because this is where the advanced tab comes into play. So right here under the advanced tab, the first thing you have is some layout settings. And this main thing that you're going to be using is going to be your margin and your padding. So if you guys can just take a look at this container that's holding the buttons, you see that there is space around the buttons. So this container has some padding on the inside. If I were to go here to padding, you don't see it, but it's default 10% of padding. If you want to change this, you can go into the site settings and change it. So let me just show you guys first. If I were to unlink this, meaning it's zeroed out, you see that I have 0 padding right now. Now the 2 widgets are flush to the container. And now I can add my own if I want to. So let's just say I wanted these buttons inside of this container to have a little bit more space at the top. Then I would do 20 padding. 20 pixels of padding at the top of this container just gave it some breathing room at the top. But you see it's still flush on the left and the bottom. That's because we did not choose anything right here. So if I wanted to do on the left, I could also do 20, and you see it did the same thing. So when it comes to padding, padding is the space inside of the widget. So in this container, because that's what we're working with, I just put 20% padding at the top in the left inside of this container, meaning I just put 20 pixels of space at the top in the left side of this container. let's just say I wanted to do some margin. Let's just say I wanted this box. Let's actually just exit out. No, I'm going to keep that. I'm going to keep that pattern so you can see the difference. Let's just say I wanted to move this container further away from the text editor. I can now go to the margin and I can just go up. And as you see, it's moving further away from the text. If I were to go all the way into the negative, you will start to notice that it gets closer and closer to the text. So right there was a little mini crash course on padding and margin. Let me put that back. Let me put 100 pixels back of margin. As you see, we have 100 pixels of margin at the top of this container, so it puts space on the outside of the container, only at the top. And you also see that in the inside of the container, I use padding on the top and the left, so it's spaced inside of the container. So your padding is the space inside of the container, and your margin is the space on the outside of the container. So I'm just going to zero the margin back, and I'm going to do the same for the padding. So going back to the edit. So for this button, what I want to do is, well, let's start here. Let's start on a container. So we have order food now for our first button. So I'm just going to put order food now. And I'm going to now go to the style tab. And the first thing I'm going to do is make it 100% or 100 pixels of border radius, meaning that it's going to now be rounded. I do not want it boxed. I want it to be rounded. And for the color, I'm going to choose my primary color. For the second button, we're using a secondary color, and it says explore our menu. So I'm actually going to save myself some time by deleting this one. I'm just going to duplicate this first button. So it already got me halfway there. I'm going to change the text to explore our menu. And then I'm going to go to the style tab. And because I don't want two same buttons, I'm going to go to choose my secondary color. Now I see I got a bit of space in between. I might not want that much space depending on what I'm doing. I'm going to go to the container again. I'm going to go back to layout. And then you have this thing called gaps. So gaps is just the space in between elements that's inside of your container. So if I'm on this container, I have two elements inside of it. So the space is only going to go for these two buttons right here. If I were to go, let's say, to our whole left side container and I edit it, if I just did 70, you see now it puts space in all of these, in between all of this. I'm not going to do that. What I want is to add some space for these buttons, or let's say delete some space. I'm going to do 15. I want them to be a little bit more closer than what they were before. I like that. Now we pretty much got this side pretty much done. If I close this, yeah, we pretty much got this side done. Now we got the right side, which is going to be our image. So let's open up this container. We can always press the plus button and you see that the left side changes. So let's just say you last left off here with this button and you were last right here. If you just click on the next container you're ready to work on, just click the plus, it'll bring up the widgets. So now I'm working on this one, so I'm just going to go ahead and drag an image widget in here. And the first image I want is going to be this right here. So there's two ways you can do this. Well, there's a couple of ways you can actually make this happen. The first and most easiest way is to already save this right image right here with the image already in this flower mask. And you can always have these two outer bows per se. You can already have those sitting on there and you can save this as one whole image and you can upload that image. Or what you can do is you can have these three images separately. So you can upload this image, then you can upload this one, and you can upload that one, and then you can do some settings and work around to make that happen. Or we can actually just add this image in here. Well, let me just show you what I mean, because that's the one we're going to do. Let's go back to the editor. So for this image, I'm going to choose, oh, I don't have that image already. Let me go and upload that image. I'm going to go ahead and drop that in right there. I'm going to now go all the way over to the style tab. I'm going to close the layout because I don't need that right now. But as you see in the advanced tab, you have a lot of more options. Now these options pertain to basically your widgets. So what you want this widget to do, you can add some motion effects, you can do some other effects here under transform, and you can do a few other things. This video will be extremely long if I went through each individual piece, so if you guys want that, just comment that down below. But for this tutorial, I'm going to just show you guys exactly what I use to create this. So I'm going to make sure I'm on the image, and I know I'm on the image because it says edit image here, and I'm going to choose the mask. I'm going to turn the mask on, and as you see, it put my image inside of a circle. I can choose this one called flower, and as you see, I get that same kind of feel right here. So this is the one I want, but as you see, you can do a few of them that they have right here. You can do blob, you can do a triangle, whatever you want, and you can even add a custom one. I'll do a separate video talking all about the mask feature, but that's what I'll be using for this one. For the image size, I'll just keep it at fit. You can also do fill, but then you'll get something like that. You can also do custom if you want to work around with it custom, but I'm just going to keep it on fit. And then the center for the picture position is good at center. But don't forget, if you guys got a picture where, let's say you want a specific part of the picture to be in the frame, you can always choose. Let's say if you wanted it there, you can do that. I'm just going to go ahead and keep it on center. And I'm going to make sure it's on no repeat. So now I'm happy with the shape that I have. So I'm going to go back to the style tab. And I do want this to be a bit bigger because in our design, it basically filled up this entire space. All right, so I do want to make this a bit bigger. So what I'm going to do is make sure I'm on the image. I know I'm on the image because we got it right here. Now, by default, this is the biggest that this widget can go, or the width that this image can go. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to adjust the height a little bit. By doing so, I'm just going to bring it. Just go in percentages. Let me do cover. Oh, not percentages, pixels. And I'm going to do let's do about 430 pixels in height. I'm going to make sure I got the object fit on cover, because if it's not, it's just going to look all crazy looking. And for me, I just want it to look better. So I'm going to choose cover, and I'm going to keep the position on center. Now, if I close this out, we are on a good start. Honestly, let's go up a little bit more. Let's do 450 or maybe 480. Let's do 480. So I really want this pretty big to mimic what we got right there. And that's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I'm inside of this image container, because the other two images, I want them to sit on this side. So they have to be in the same container as this one. So what I'm going to do, so I'm going to drop another image in here. And then for this image, I'm going to choose this one right here. And it's a PNG image of the food. So what I'm going to do is go back to the advanced tab. And this time I'm going to scroll down to position, and I'm going to choose absolute. And this just means that it's not going to take up any space inside of this container. So now you can freely move it wherever and however you want. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to the style, because I don't need this that big. I'm going to do something like 40 pixels. We can even go to 30. Let's do 35. Yeah, I'll do 35. And I'm going to go back to the advanced, and I'm just going to mess with the horizontal and vertical orientation. So first I'm going to go downward. Let's change the vertical orientation to bottom. That way it's directly at the bottom of this container. And then now I'm just going to use the horizontal orientation to move it over a little bit. If you know your numbers, you can go ahead and choose them. Like for me, at this point, it looked like 190 would be good. Let's see, where was the position? Let's do, yeah, I think 190 is good. And actually, let me go back to the style, and let's go ahead and go with 40 like the first thought. And that's pretty much good right there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to duplicate this one. I'm going to choose a different image, which I'm going to choose this one. and go back to the advanced. And this time I want the vertical orientation to be at the top because I actually want this one to be up at the right. Let's put this back at 0. So now it's completely at the top. And this time for the offset, I'm going to go to the positives. I'm going to go over a little bit. Let's go to the style tab. It's at 40. Let's do 100. And I actually want to move it out of it a little bit. So I'm going to actually give it some negative on the vertical orientation of about 40. So I like it right there at 410 pixels. I'm going to close this, see what we're looking like. And that's pretty nice. So I'm going to go back to this one. Oops, I'm going to go back to that one. And there's one last thing I want to do. So I want to go up a little bit more. And yeah, that's perfect. I like that. So now we pretty much got our right side down because that was pretty much it. So now you guys see I did have some reviews right here, which is really nice. So just a little simple review badge. Now there's a few ways you can do this too, but I'm going to show you the simplest way to do that. And that's just let's add an image widget inside of this container. I'm going to open up my navigator because this image widget, I actually wanted to sit underneath my buttons. Now I just moved it. And for this image, I'm going to use this right here. So I just created this inside of Canva, super easy. So if you guys want to create something like this, but you know, realistic people that you actually got reviews from, this is how I created it. There's other ways you can do it for this video. This is what I'm going to go for. I'm going to make this about 30 pixels, or let's do 25. It don't need to be too big. Yeah. And for this widget, I do want it to be left aligned because I want to keep everything over here left aligned. Now, looking at this, I do kind of want to change some spacing here. So for proximity purposes, I want all of this to look like it go together, but I do want to give a bit more breathing room right before I get to the pictures. So I'm going to open this back up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the overall container, and where I talked about gaps earlier, instead of it being 20 in the row, because by default they just put 20 on the column and the row, which we don't have to worry about column because we don't have any, well, we don't have to worry about row because we don't have anything sitting side by side, but we do have some column stuff. So I'm going to do 10. Or let's just do 15 because I don't want it to be too close. I think that's perfect. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this container right here. And again, remember when we learned about the margin and padding, I'm going to actually give it, which one would be better? Actually, I'm going to go to this image widget and I'm going to go to the advanced tab, and I'm going to give it some spacing at the top, but I don't want to do it from the margin. I just want to put some space in between or inside of the widget. So I'm just going to do, let's just do 20, or let's do 20. Yep, that's good. Or no, that's a bit much. Let's do 10. I think that's fine. Yep, that's cool. And what I'm going to do is go back. This is a little trick I learned a while ago. I'm going to go to this text editor widget. I'm going to actually go to where it says visual and code. I'm going to click on code, click inside of it, and I'm just going to enter it down just to get rid of some of that default spacing that's at the bottom of the text. By default, it comes with that. I'm not sure, it's, as you guys see on the visual mode, it automatically comes with that. You would think that maybe you had some space here, but no, you didn't. It's just default. So go to the code and just click enter, and there you go. So if I close that, this is what we're working with right now for the hero section. So I'm going to pull out my structure, and now you guys see we have our hero banner container. Now if I close this, because we're going to be working on our second container in a bit, you guys see that that's all I have for now. If I open it, I have the left side that's holding the copy, and then I have the right side that's holding the images right there. Inside of our left container, we have the heading, we have the text, and we have a container that's containing both of our buttons. If I open that, you'll see them here. And then we have our image for our review badge. I'm going to close that, and as you guys know, we just have our 3 images over here with a little absolute to make this come to life. So I'm going to now close this because we're done with the hero banner. So now what I want to do is add another section So I'm going to add this next section. And for this section, I'm creating this little, basically just an image piece right here, but I'm going to make it a bit different from your typical carousel and have them rounded off. So let's open up the editor. So if they're going to be sitting side by side, which one do you think we're going to be using? Yep, we're going to be using the direction of row because we want everything to sit next to each other. So now that I have the container in there, I'm going to give it a viewport height of 20. I'm going to go to the style tab and I'm going to choose the primary color. And I'm going to now use a grid. So earlier I told you guys about the different types of layout. It really just depends on what you're designing to determine which one you'll use. So if I look at the design, I'm pretty much going to make the same thing over and over. So if it's something like that, that's where grid comes into play. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you only use grid when it's the same thing being repeated. I'm just saying for the purpose of this design piece, since everything will be repeated, it's just good to just go ahead and use grid, because if you use grid, you do have less containers. I'm going to use grid, so I'm just going to pop that in. And as you see, grid comes up with, your columns and your rows. So for the row, I'm going to go down to 1 because I only need 1 row, because I just need 1 row with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little images. So I'm going to go back here, and for the columns, I'm just going to change it to 5. That way I have 5 pieces right here. Now the thing with the grid is you do need to add a container inside of it. So I'm going to click on this one here, and I'm going to drag the container. Well, let me just do this. Let me click it and put the container, and as you see, it dropped it right inside of there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the first one, that way I can just duplicate it. So now I'm going to go back to the elements, and I'm going to drop an image widget in. Okay, that's tripping. So I'm just going to click the plus sign and just press the image, and as you see, it popped it inside of there. I'm going to use the same image from earlier since I did not save all of my images, but of course be sure you're using different images for this piece. So I'm going to choose this image. I'm going to go back to the advanced. I'm going to close out layout because I'm going to do the same thing that I did earlier for this piece right here, but this time I want them to be circles. So I'm going to go to the mask and I'm going to turn it on, and by default the first option is circle, so I'm completely fine with that. I don't have to edit this anymore. It's pretty much good. If I go to the main container, it's already centered, and what I will do is just zero out the padding, so it's like that. So now all I'm going to do is just duplicate this one 5 times because that's what I want. And there we go. We got our 5 little images right here. Now I can do some more stuff like editing the spacing. So if I go back to the main container that's holding the grid, or AKA the grid, that's the widget. All I'm going to do now is on the gaps, I'm going to change, and I'm going to edit the gap to be 10, or let's go with 5. Because there's so much space, honestly, it probably need nothing. Let's do 0. Yeah, I like 0. That's perfect, actually. And that's pretty much it for that section. So now we have the other section, which you guys cannot see. Let's shrink this down. I'm gonna just move this really quickly, and let's move this one to the front of the class. Okay, so now we're gonna be making this section right here. So we're gonna have 4 cards, which is gonna hold the, well, we're gonna have 3 in ours because I'm not gonna make it a slider. I just want to keep this, pretty short tutorial. I'm gonna have 3 containers that's gonna contain a image, a heading, text, and a button, similar to what we've been doing this whole time. But what I'm going to do is give some negative margin to our image so it pops out over the card. Then I'm going to give it a cool little hover effect, and that's pretty much it. So let's hop into this second section. So obviously in a real design, swap out your images. I'm not going to waste any time doing that, but I will go ahead and add my next section, which will go in a column direction, because although I do have these pieces that are going to sit next to each other, I do have text that I want to have sitting on top of this. So with that being said, what we're going to need to do is have 2 containers inside of here. So I'm going to first start off with the color so we can see what we're working with. I'm going to be on the container. I'm going to choose the primary color. And then what I'm going to do is drop a container in here. And then I'm going to duplicate this container. So now we have our 2 containers. The one here will contain our text, and the one at the bottom will hold our cards. So the first thing I want to do is go to this first container. Well, the first thing I want to do is open up my navigator, because now we have some new stuff we need to organize. So for this container here, this was the one we just did with the circles. I'm going to retitle this and just say image. Okay, let's say circle images container, because we want to keep it on container. And in that container, of course, we have our grid that holds all of our containers with our images. I'm going to close that. Now for this container here, this is going to be the let's just say the menu container. And that's pretty much it. So I can close this now. So inside of this first container, I'll click on the first container. Inside of this container, I want to actually drop another container in there. And I want to duplicate these containers. I'm going to go back to the main one. I'm going to make sure that this one is on direction row. So as you see what I just did, the main container is going to hold the text at the top and the image cards or the menu items at the bottom. But if you look at our wireframe over here, for this top container that's holding the content, I actually have a 2 column here as well, because I have my button here and my text over here. So I'm going to open this back up. You guys see in this top container that's holding the text, I have 2 containers inside of there. So for this first one on the left, I'm going to drop in the heading. And I'm going to drop in the text. Okay, it's doing that thing again. Open up your navigator. Just make sure it's in there like that. Let's go to the heading, make it gray so we can know what we're doing. Text editor, we want the same thing. And I'm going to move this over, and over here I'm going to put in our button, because that's what we had over there. Actually, I'm just going to do something like this. I'm just going to copy this button, and I'm just going to drop this button right here. So as you see, it's right here. So we're getting somewhere. Now we have this piece, we have this piece, and we're on our last section. So now we have to fix this up a bit more. So let's start off with the text on the left. So I want this heading right here to have the same style as this for consistency. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste the style for this one. And as you see, it pasted it exactly how I want. The only thing is this was in our hero section, so it makes sense being 6 RAM, but for here I don't want it to be that big, so I'm just gonna go for 4, and I think that's perfect. And I'm gonna bring it down to a normal weight size. And for this one over here, we just got today's serving on the menu. I don't know why I chose that. That is not even a complete sentence. So I'm gonna say what's, okay, it's not being all caps, what's serving on the menu. We're gonna do that. And actually I see I can go a bit smaller. Let's go for 3.5 then. And I think that's pretty cool. Don't worry about it being jumping down to the next line. We're going to fix that in just a second. But the next thing is this text editor, and I have some copy I'm going to put in here. All right, so now I have my text in there. So if I close this out, I'll see that again I have my text a bit too long, which I don't really like. So I'm just going to go to this text editor widget, go to the advanced tab, and give it a custom width of, let's do 65. Let's do 75, and and I like that. Again, I'm going to go to the code piece of this, and I'm going to enter out to get rid of that default space. So now what I want to do is work with this side over here. So in the wireframe, we have our button on the far right, and it's justified to the bottom. So it's aligned to the right or the end, and it's justified to the bottom. So I'm going to go back to this container because this button is sitting inside this container. So we can achieve where it's sitting just by going to the container. I'm going to first justify to the end or the bottom. And then I'm going to align the items to the end or the right. And as you see, there it is right there. Now I do not want any default spacing because let me close this. Let me use my ruler. I want to make sure, as you guys see, the bottom of this text is not aligned with the bottom of this button. And I don't want that. So what I'm going to do is go on this container with the button, and I'm going to get rid of the padding. And honestly, I'm going to go ahead and do the same for this one. That way they sit right with each other as they should. All right, so now let's close it. And that's pretty much what we want. Now what I'm going to do is go to this container, because as you see, this container on the right is just holding a button. So it technically don't need all of this space. And if I want the size of my text to stay at a 3.5 rem, which I really do, I can just give this container on the left a little bit more space. So that's where, if we go to the layout, and we can better control the width over here. So right now in this main container, we have both of them sitting, and there should be 50 and 50. So I'm going to go to this one, and I'm going to go to the layout, and I'm just going to put it at about 75%. Immediately you can see that it automatically pulled this one and made it longer. So now this one is taking up 100% of the space inside the container, and this one is only taking up 75%. And that's pretty much what we got right there. So what I'm going to do is go to this container, because again, it's too much space in between these. So now what I'm going to do is go to the row, and I'm going to just do 15, not 150, 15. That way it kind of mimic what was up here. Actually, I'm going to go for 10. To me personally, 10 just looks better. And I knew I should have went with that my first mind up here as well. So I'm going to do that really quickly and do just 10. I like that better. All right, so now what we can notice is this section is too close to the hero section, as well as this third section is too close to this image section, which I do not want. So that's where padding comes into play once more. And I wanted to show, me personally, I would have definitely went and did my padding before going on to the next section. So do as I say, not as I do. Be sure you are doing what I'm about to show you right now before you move on to the next section. But I didn't do it just because I want to show you guys what it will look like if you just continue to just build and build without putting space or breathing room in between your sections, which this does not look too good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the first section, this right here, and I'm going to go to the advanced tab, and I'm going to adjust my padding as I want. I'm going to unlink it, and as you see, it just brought everything up flush to the container. What I'm going to do is add, I typically do 80, but I think 80 might be a bit much for this design. So I'm just going to go with 50 to keep things simple. Let's do 50 at the top and 50 at the bottom. I'm going to do 20 on the right and the left just because I do like a little bit more space on the sides as well. Now you see it's not so close to the top. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and do 80. Let's go ahead and do 80 actually. Yeah, let's do that. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing to this one as well. And to keep your designs consistent, you want to make sure that you're using the same amount of spacing on every container. So I'm going to go to this one, I'm going to go to the advanced, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to unlink the padding. I'm going to do 80 at the top, 80 at the bottom, 20 on the right, and 20 on the left. And there we go. Now what I'm going to do is start working on our menu section. So now it's time for some cool stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing I did here. I'm going to drop in a grid, and I'm going to do one row, and it'll be 3 of these. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to drop in a container. And for the container that's here, I'm going to go and make the color of it white. Or we can use our gray and then just choose the color white. I'm going to give this some padding all around. That way everything I put in here will have some breathing room. I'm going to go for about 40. And I'm going to go to the style tab, and underneath the style, I'm going to give it some border radius of about 50. No, that's a bit much. Let's just do 20. Yeah, 20 is perfect. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop in a image. Then I had a heading. Then I had a text. And then I have a button. And this is pretty much going to be exactly what we created right here. So I'm going to go back to it. What I'm going to do is now choose my image. I have this image I'm going to use. And for the text, this is just going to be tomato. Oh, wow. That's not what I meant. It's going to be tomato pasta. And what I'm going to do is go to the style tab for this heading, and I'm going to center align it. And for the text, I'm just going to center align the text, and I'm going to do the same for this button. I'm going to go to the style, and I'm going to center it. Now for this text, I'm going to put some demo text, and I'll be right back. All right, so now I added in my text, the description for the menu item. I'm going to go do that. For the text, I'm going to make it a bit smaller because I don't need it as huge as I have it here. And let's just go for about 1.5 rem. Now for the button, I wanted to match the branding. So I'm just going to take this and I'm going to paste the style, and there we go. In the button text, I'm going to go to the content, and I'm going to change it to say order now. Well, let's just see what color. Yeah, we use that one. So order now. And for this one, I'm going to go ahead and use the icon. I'm going to use, let's just use this one. And I'm going to put it on the right side, and I'm going to give it some spacing of 10 pixels just to be a little bit more spaced out. Okay, so now that we have that, now I'm going to go to the image. I'm going to go to advanced, and what I'm going to do is do negative margin, because I want this to go all the way to the top and sit out above the card. So I'm going to click on unlink, and I only want to do negative margin on the image. Now I'm going to go to about 80. Let's do 90. Let's go ahead and just do negative 100. Yep, I like that. Now, as you do see, since I did negative margin, it is a bit close to our text. So I'm just going to open up my navigator, and I'm going to close that. So underneath the menu container, which is the one that we're currently working on, I'm not going to mess with the one with the text. I'm going to actually go to this one that's holding the grid. And for the grid container, I want to go to the advanced and do the same thing and add some padding at the top. Let's do 80, not 800. 80. Let's do 50. I think that's perfect. And it now gives it a little bit of space. I think I liked it at 80 though. Yep, that's perfect. So now all I'm going to do is duplicate this one container 3 times, because I want to use this same thing 3 times. And there we go. Now I did notice that my button kind of switched, so we're going to go back. I'm going to center these in the style tab, and there we go. Now of course you can swap out the images. So if I were to go here, I just swap out my images, click this one, then go to this one and choose this one, And there we go. Actually, no, you would want to make sure you're using the same thing. So I'm going to use another white bowl. And there we go. We now have our 3 food items on the menu. Obviously, just imagine that the text was already fixed. And the last thing we're going to do is go to the images, because on hover, I want it to kind of like twirl a little bit and zoom in. So what I'm going to do is go to the layout. And earlier I told you guys, if you want to add some additional like effects and stuff, you can go here. I'm not going to use the motion effects because this will only give me scrolling and mouse effects. And what I want to do is go to transform. And on hover, not the normal state, but on hover, I want it to rotate, and I also want it to scale. Now I want it to scale up a little bit. Let's do 1.1 is perfect. And for the rotate, I just want this to rotate a little bit. So let's go down to about 5 degrees is perfect. So now I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to paste it to this one, and I'm also going to paste it to this one. And now you see on hover, they both, or they all have this cool hover effect. And that's pretty much it. Now the last thing I want to show you guys is the header and the footer. So let's go ahead and publish what we have. Let's preview. And as you see here, we got our hero section. We have our gallery. It has the same pictures for now. And then we have our menu section with this nice, cool, simple hover effect. So now let's add a header here and a simple footer. So how to do the header and the footer, you want to go back to your WordPress dashboard, and where you want to go is you actually want to go to templates. Now when you install Elementor, you do have templates, and where you want to go to is the theme builder. When you are using Elementor free, you will not have this option. It will not be open to you. You will see it, but it will be locked. But if you have Elementor Pro, this is where you can create your header and footer. You want to just go to the theme builder. And as you see, you can create all different types of templates that you can just adjust and add to anywhere you want. So for me, I want to do a header, and I'm just going to add a new header. Now, once it opens, it's going to give you a few options if you want to take the easy route and, you just want to get a simple header on there. I'm going to make mine from scratch. So what I'm going to do is first go here and let me name this to custom header. Oops, what am I doing? Custom header. All right, so now I'm going to be creating the header. So as you guys see, I do have, oh, wait, let me go back. So for my header, you guys see that I have a pill-shaped header that's kind of floating, so it's not full width. So how I achieve this is I have one container, and then I have another container inside it for just the menu or the header piece. So let's go back to the editor. I'm going to have one container. It doesn't matter which row, because it's only going to have one thing sitting inside of it. And this one we're going to keep blank. We're not going to even mess with it for now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add another container in there. And this container is the one that's going to house our stuff. So this is the first container, is just the main header. And inside of the main header, we actually have the header content. And inside the header content, we will need a navigation menu. We will need a image widget, and we will also need a, what else? Oh, a button. That's what we'll need. So we're gonna need the image first, the WordPress menu second, and then the button last. As you see, everything is sitting on top of each other, which is not what we want. So we're going to go to the main header container, or not the main header. We're going to go to the header content container, and we're going to change the layout to row. So now we see everything kind of sits next to each other. Right now it's a bit ugly, so let's go ahead and make this look better by going to the image, choosing our logo. I'm going to give this a percentage of 10. Well, first, so we can see what we're doing. We need to give this header content container our color, which is going to be our primary color here. and we're going to give it a border radius of 20. And as you guys see, that's what we're working with right now. So for this image, I'm going to go and give it a custom width of 30. And I'm going to go back and give this just 100%. Let's go back and give it actually 20. Nope, 15. Because it doesn't need that much space. It's just a logo. So for the menu, I don't necessarily have a menu. What we're going to do is just go back to the home page. So I'm just going to open up a new page. If we go here to appearance and go down to menus, you will see that you do have some menu options. So this is where you control the pages that are going to show inside of your menu. So I'm just going to choose the title for this menu to be main menu. I'm going to create this menu. I'm going to make sure I put display header, and for the pages, I'm just going to choose these 2 pages because we don't have many right now, and I'm going to go ahead and add to the menu. And I'm going to go ahead and choose this right here, auto add pages. This way, if you have this checked this way, every page you make automatically drops inside of your header menu. So I'm going to go ahead and choose that because later I'm going to add a few more demo pages just to show you how our header fills up. So I'm going to go ahead and save the menu. I'm going to go back to the header. I'm going to publish this, add conditions. It's going to go on the entire site. I'm going to save and close, and I'm going to refresh this. Now you see the 2 pages that I added are actually right here. So now we can actually see what we're working with. So I'm going to go to the menu, and I'm going to change the color to be white so we can see it. And then I'm going to also go to the button. And how was our button? Our button was our secondary color. So let's go back to the header. The button color needs to be our secondary color, and the content needs to say find a location. And that's pretty much it. So now as you see, the logo is a bit centered, sort of say, but everything else is pushed to the top. That's because, remember, with the containers, by default, it automatically pushes everything to the top if you do not justify how you want your content to be aligned. So I want everything to be aligned to the center. So now everything's in the center. What I'm going to do is start off with space between, because I really just want these 2 things flushed to the end, and I want the menu in the middle. If I close this, you'll see that's exactly what it did. So I'm going to open this back. I actually want some space on the side. So I'm going to go to the advanced because, again, I want space inside of this container. I'm going to unlink it. As you see, it pushed everything to the sides. What I'm going to do is give it some space on the left and the right. I'm going to probably have to do about 40 pixels. And we're going to start there. But what I want to do now, what I want to do now is make sure that I put some at the top. I'm going to go with 10 and 10. And that's starting to look a bit better. Let's go to our logo. It's pretty huge. Let's make this about 60% and let's left align it over there. And that's perfect. That's perfect. So now I'm just going to go ahead and update this. Okay, so I already published it, but now what I want to do is go to the display conditions, because this is what's actually going to show up when you first hit publish. I already had hit publish earlier, so you guys can see it this time, but what you want to make sure to do is add the condition. So your header, you will want this to show on the entire website. So that's why I chose to include this template to be on the entire site, and I'm going to just save and close. So now I'm going to go back here, and what I'm going to do is refresh this page. And what I'm going to do is go back to the page settings. Remember earlier I told you guys I wanted it to be on Elementor Canvas because I wanted to only see the work that I'm putting on the page, and I did not want that default header. I'm now going to switch that back. So on Elementor Canvas, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to go back to Elementor Full Width. That way I can actually see my header. And as you see, there is our header. So first and foremost, as you see, it's white and it's sitting on top of the hero banner, which is not wrong. It's actually where it's supposed to sit. But since we want more so of the let's zoom this in, because we want more so of the transparent type of feel and the overlay, here's what we're going to do. So go back to the header, go back to the main container. So the main header, I should have titled that container, but the main header container, we're gonna go to the style. Underneath the classic, we're gonna choose white, but we're gonna turn the transparency all the way down, and we're gonna publish it. The reason why we're making it transparent is because we're soon about to push this hero banner underneath that, and we need this to be transparent. So now I'm just going to publish this. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make sure I'm on the container for the hero. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the advanced, and I'm going to give this negative margin. I'm going to go to about, let's just do 100. And also what I want to do is I want to give it some space, because you can't see it, but right now we have our hero or our header right about there, which is not what we want. So what I'm now going to do is on the same container, I'm going to unlink the padding, and I'm going to give it some top padding of 70, or let's go ahead and do 120. And I think that'll be good for now. Let's go ahead and publish this. What I'm going to do is make sure that this container that has the hero section is on 1 Z index. Consider the Z index to be like layers. So for the hero section, I wanted to sit underneath our header, because going back to the design, what we have is our header. It sits on top of our hero section, and that's kind of what we want to mimic here. So like I said, I'm going to give this one a Z index of 1, meaning it's the first layer at the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and publish that. Then for the header, I'm going to go to its container, and I'm going to make sure it has a Z index of 2. I'm going to go ahead and publish. So this means that this will sit on top of this. So let's go ahead and refresh. And as you see, there is our header sitting right on top. And that's pretty much what we wanted. So now we can go back and we can refine some things. So for this, for some odd reason, is back extremely bold. Let's just do medium at this point. Yes, this looks a whole lot better. So we're gonna go with medium for the hero text here. For this, I think it's a bit much spacing, so let's reduce this just a little bit. So let's do 60 at the top and the bottom. Then let's go to here, because we want to keep consistency, and let's do the same thing for this. Also, we missed our 0 on that part. There we go. That's much better. And that's pretty much it, you guys. So let's also, I forgot one last thing, the footer. So right now you see by default it has this as your footer. So again, to create this, you want to just go back to the dashboard. You want to go back to the template theme builder. And this time, instead of choosing a header, what you want to do is choose a footer. You want to add new. It's going to open up the Elementor editor. So like I just showed you, this is what it looks like by default. It just have your tagline for your website and then all rights reserved. But if you want to make this look a lot better, again, it's going to give you some templates if you want to go easy route and do that. But what we want to do is, let's make this one 30% and then this one 70%. There we go. So for this side, I just want our logo, and I want a text editor right here. Forgot to go to the main container, give it a style of our primary color. So right here, I'm going to do the same thing that we did kind of for the hero section. I want the logo. Let's go with about 30. Let's do 50. I'm gonna left align it, make this text to be white. I'm just gonna have some simple text that we already have here. Let's go for this piece we make. Let's go with that. Let's go add that there. And what we're gonna do is go to code and get rid of that. Now for this, I want it to be about, oops, let's do 50, no, not 50, 70. Let's do 80. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to this. I'm gonna make it about 60%. I want it to be a bit bigger. And that's pretty much it for that side. Now on this side, we can add a bunch of different things because this is a restaurant. It could be a map on that on this side. So we can just type in Google Maps and we can drop a map here, and that'll be really good for this type of website. And I think that's what we're gonna go with actually, and we're just going to center everything on this end right here. Now what I'm going to do is go to the main container and give it some padding because 10 is just not enough. Let's do 20 at the bottom. No, let's do 40, 40, 20, 20. Okay, so now for this map, I actually want to round it off, but as you see in the style tab, we have no settings but this. So what I'm going to do is go to advanced and I'm going to go to border, and for the border radius, I'm going to just choose 20. And as you see, it created the roundness right here. You can add some more menus up here as well, but as you guys see, we only have 2 pages. So I'm going to show you guys quickly how you can actually add that right there too. So let's just publish this, add the condition for the entire site, and save and close, the same as we did with the header. So now what we're going to do is go back to the menu. And like I told you guys, you can add all of your pages to this menu, but we check this little check mark right here to automatically save things. So let's just resave that. And if we go to pages, I'm just going to add some default pages. So let me just open this in a new tab a few times. So this one is going to be contact. Oh, wait, this one is going to say contact. I'm going to publish it. This one is going to say, we already have about contact, and let's just say menu. Publish this. Now both of those pages are published. So if we go back here, publish this. If we refresh this, you'll see that it says the same thing in the menu. So I'm gonna refresh. And now the things that we just added in our menu should be showing automatically in our header menu. And there it is. So now obviously, even though for SEO purposes, let's just say you actually title your home page something like your brand and what it's about. What you can do now is go back to the editor, go to appearance, go to menu. And what you can do now is for this one, that's technically your home page, you can just give the navigation label just to say home. This will not change the URL. It'll only change the page label for your header. So now if we go back and we preview this, so now you see it actually says home instead of that long name that we made before for SEO purposes. Now, if I just scroll all the way down, I noticed one thing. I noticed that actually the middle sections that I have right here are already our primary color, and I really want our footer to kind of stand out and look different. So I'm going to give our footer a different color. So I'm going to open up the footer. I'm going to go back to it, and let's just use another color. Let's just use, not this one, let's just say we went with this color. I probably wouldn't choose this color, but I'm just showing you guys for the purposes of this video or this tutorial to just make sure that you do kind of have some separation between your footer And there we go. So it's still on brand, but now it just have a bit of separation. Now our footer actually looks like it stands alone by itself. What I want to do now is go back to the footer, and as you guys see, now we fixed the header. So what I want to do here is, let's just say we didn't want this right here. Let's say we wanted to do 2 containers inside of here, make this one go in the direction of row, and we actually wanted that map. Let's Google map again. Let's put that map on the far right. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to go to advanced. We're going to give it some border radius of about 20. But right here in this piece, I actually wanted to add another nav menu. So what I'm going to do is, typically for footers, you do have a title before the menu. So what I'm going to do is make sure on this container right here, I'm going to go in the column because I want some text above it, aka the menu title, and then I want the actual menu underneath it. So I'm going to drop in a heading widget, and then I'm going to drop in the navigation menu once more. So for the text, I wanted to say, let's say quick links right there. And for the typography color, I want it to be white. And for the size, the font size, I'm just going to go with 1.5. I don't need it too big. And now we're going to work with the actual menu. So as you see, this defaults to a header menu, but for the footer menu, you don't want it to be horizontally. You want it to be vertically because you want them to go down like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take off the underline. I don't actually want that. I just want the color overlay or the color hover effect. So what I'm going to do is now go to the style, the default text color. I'm going to go for our gray, and the hover can stay on that color. I'm perfectly fine with that. Now this is the trick. If I close this, you guys will see that this is not in alignment with each other at all. So what you want to do is you want to choose the horizontal padding, and you want to just zero that out. By doing that, it flushes it to the left side, resulting in it to actually be in alignment with the text. So for this container, you guys notice how we pushed everything in the center. I'm going to do the same thing with this container just so we have some consistency right here. So I'm going to push everything in the center. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go back to our menu. For the vertical padding, I'm going to go for about, let's do 6. No, we can do 8. I'm going to do about 8. And that's pretty much it. Now you can get really fancy with your footers, which I will have another tutorial coming up soon, but that's going to be pretty much it for now, just to show you guys quickly how you can make that happen. Let's go ahead and refresh this. Now we have something like this. Now you can get really flexible. It all depends on what you want to do. That's why I love using Elementor, because you can really do some cool stuff and you can really let your imagination run wild. And that was it for the complete Elementor course tutorial. Now if this was very informative for you, go ahead and drop a fire emoji down in the comment section, because you literally made it to the very end of this video. That means that you learned quite a bit. I showed you guys how to use the container widget, how to use the grid widget. I also showed you guys how to create and customize your hero section, as well as some additional sections on a page. I even showed you guys how to use the hover effects inside of Elementor to get some cool hover effects on your section, similar to this one right here. I also showed you guys how to do the hero, a custom hero and footer for your website or your web page, and how to add the conditions to make sure that they are showing across the entire website. If you guys want more in-depth tutorials or like a one-on-one, more personal web design or Elementor session, be sure to click the first link in the description box down below and book a one-on-one session. I will be doing more tutorials. I will actually be showing you guys how to build a full shop website. So if you're looking forward to something like that, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye.